My handsome friend, what are you doing? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
What's going on? High fives. And where is that interesting looking view that I see with the outdoors and the porch and so forth? Is that your pad?
it's a condominium in Maui.
Oh, he's okay. First and foremost, folks, a huge thrill to be welcoming back a cat that we have been so honored to have on the show a whole bunch since I think 2010 was the first time that he joined us here on HPR's All Things Considered, making his first appearance on our Off the Road interview series, Tower of Power, Emilio Castillio. Tenor sax, vocals, band leader, such a great storyteller too. Wonderful to see your face on Zoom and to have you back on. High fives, brother.
Good to be here. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, nice to see you too. And so how long have you guys been back to doing concerts amidst the pandemic?
We started in August last year and we went through November. And then we had December and January off, and that wasn't our intention, but just how it worked out. We had gotten a new agent, and for some reason, just this big gap. Well, they're gone. And we went back. We were back with William Morris. We were with William Morris for years and years. We were back with them, and they filled up our year. So we started in February, and we've been off and on ever since. We go out a few days, come back a few days, back and forth. Like we've always done.
Right on, man. And so thinking about the whole time frame of this thing, stretching back to March 2020 till now, any scary stories or interesting stories from all the way from the beginning till now of just any of the chaos, especially during the initial days as it maybe impacted your life, the band, both, friends, etc.?
Well, I've worked since 1968. I've never, ever once been off. So, all of a sudden it's like, okay, there's a pandemic and everything's canceled. And I was like, okay, well, they'll figure this out next week, and I parked myself in, and then, pretty soon a month goes by and that's how I was for like 3 months. I'm like, no, this is going to go away, And then after 3 months, I was like, no, maybe this is going to be here a little while. And, it was fortunate for me because I had just gotten married, not even a year earlier.
Right, I remember.
And so I had all this time with my wife. And I remember she says to me one day after about 7 months being home, have you ever spent this much time with any of your other wives? Because I've been married twice before. And, I had to think about it,
Right.
In my mind, I spend all my time with my wife, and I went, no, I've never ever spent this much time. And then we went on to spend another year or so together. But as I say, we just got married, so all is bliss, and we were just loving it.
I remember because we had met, and she was there in the studio. She at the Blue Note when we were hanging in the. You were doing your.
And she's here again.
Yep, that's great stuff, man. And did anybody, on a more serious note, anybody in the band or yourself ever get sick with COVID?
We both, Victoria and I, both got COVID.
Wow.
We got it last April, and then I just had it again. The whole band, 7 of us, came down with it recently, and we were finishing up. We were in the middle of a tour, and the house mixer and our organist tested positive. So we had to leave them in New York City. We had just done Sony Hall 2 nights, sold it out, great gig. And we had been doing a week without our guitar player, Jerry Cortez, because a week before that, he had had a heart attack on stage. And so he went in the hospital that night. They put a stent in him. He felt better the next day, but he had to stay off stage for a week. So we played with no guitar for a week. Wow. Most bands that would cripple them.
Yeah.
We killed it every night. And we came to a roaring climax in New York City at, it's the Blue Note, really, Sony Hall.
Yeah.
And then Roger and Jerry tested positive. We had to leave them there, but the guitar player came back.
Rotating members.
So we played the next week with no keyboard, but we had a guitar, and then 4 days in, and everybody, we all tested, because in New York, you can just go to the corner. There's 4 places on every corner.
Right, to get a test.
Free immediately, So we all went down, got tested. Everybody came up negative. We went to the next gig. Next day, everybody started having these bronchial
symptoms.
Symptoms. What happens when you get 71? So we went a few days, and then the bass player, Mark BW, he sends a text out right before we're going to the gig. I tested positive, So the tour manager said, all right, everybody test again. So we all tested, and 7 of us had it.
Unbelievable.
We played the gig that night, and then canceled the next gig and went home. And then we moved the gig that weekend. We're going to make that up in the next week or so. And then, we all got it. But it was like a bronchial cold.
That's also, thankfully, so the bottom line is you and the missus and everybody else who got it attached to Tower of Power all made it through it with really light symptoms, is what you're trying to say.
We did. I came home, I gave it to Victoria, and we're both over it. So
great to hear. Well,
I'm happy to be in Hawaii, let me tell you.
Oh, for sure. Well, bless you, brother. Of course, you're happy to be here. I couldn't imagine a whole lot of people who wouldn't be. And I was thinking, too, on the note of sax, certainly. We lost some major music luminaries during the pandemic, and I don't know if he ever crossed paths with you, but just because you know so much about music and done so much, and he was a major cat in similar eras. Manu Dibango, writer of Soul Makossa, we lost him to COVID. Do you ever have any contacts or interesting run-ins with him?
I haven't.
Never.
I'm sorry.
No, it doesn't matter. But you know who I'm talking about.
Yes.
Okay. You guys have you were busy during the pandemic. Interestingly enough, a 50th anniversary live album came out last year, 2021, was recorded back in 2018, Oakland Fox Theater. Now, when you think of that venue, because you guys have been like fixtures at so many places in history, people's memories, certainly here in the islands, what are, when you think of the Fox, some of the most outrageous experiences maybe you've had there, either on stage, backstage, at other people's shows, when you just contemplate the venue and think of anything that's like sticks out in your mind, like a head shaking moment there?
Actually, I've never even played that venue.
That was the first.
Our 50th, because for one thing, the venue was in disrepair for years.
Wow.
And there were all these civic movements to get it restored, and they were always reaching out to us. They wanted us to play, this benefit and that. And finally, they got the marquee restored, which it's fabulous. It looks beautiful, but they couldn't do the rest of the theater. And they kept on doing, I probably at 6 different times over the years, we get a call, can you do this? My brother's an Oakland fireman, and he had gotten together, some firemen had gotten together with some doctors and recently, can you do this? And I'm like, make an offer. I don't do that. I just show up and play music.
Right.
You contact the agent, he contacts the man. That's how it works, But they could never get it together. And then I heard when we were looking for a venue to play at, my manager says, what about the Fox? And I go, is it done? And because I knew they had finally started to redo it. And
right.
He goes, yeah. He goes, I'm going to go look at it. Well, he got up there and he sends me a text. He goes, this place is amazing. And they put millions into that joint. And then it's 2 of Bill Graham's people that run it.
Oh, nice.
Sherry and I forget the other guys.
Full circle then for you in that way too.
Yeah, it was great. It was like playing the Bill Graham gig.
Right. No, I like that. And well, on that note too, when you think about some of the one of the neat things about Tower of Power through the years, there have been a lot of prestigious gigs where the Tower of Power horns were actually hired to back somebody else, and that is something that maybe a lot of more casual fans and listeners may not realize, that in fact some of their favorite bands or artists that they enjoy have had connections to you guys. When you think of what you would call, and it doesn't disrespect any of the many other folks because you can't mention everything, but some of the personal prestigious gigs of when other artists have asked you to, and other members of the Tower of Power horns, to participate in their recordings, who do you think some of the highlight gigs, the most prestigious ones that really make you feel proud and smile when you think about it?
Well, we've had a lot of great ones, but we did Aaron Neville and Linda Ronstadt, When Something's Wrong with My Baby, the Sam and Dave hit, and they got a Grammy that year. And the whole session, everything about it was fabulous. We did a lot of recording with Dave Stewart producing,
From the Eurythmics.
And it's 2 Annie Lennox solo albums. And then we did Eurythmics. And then they did a live gig at the Universal Amphitheater and said, would you come and do these things with us live?
Wow.
And I remember being there, and George Harrison was there, and the singer Charlie Wilson from the Gap Band was singing background, And
Wow.
the thing I remember about that gig, I went up to shake George Harrison's hand because he's a Beatle, and I came away thinking to myself, how can he have teeth that bad? I mean, I was stunned. I shook his hand. I was like, and that's the only thing that came into my mind. And I remember another story about that gig too. Was Tom Petty was there, and I'll never forget this. Doc goes up to Tom Petty, and he goes to shake his hand, and he said when he shook his hand, it was like a real limp wrist shake, and he goes, "This is the guy that did I Won't Back Down." Those were our memories of that particular gig. It was a monumental gig, though.
And interestingly enough, you've backed at least, and there's so many, and you were right when you said that at the beginning, because for folks, it's really, if you go to their website, you'll see the list is stunning, how many times they've done this. But before we let you go, you backed at least 2 acts connected to this Off the Road series you're part of, according to your extensive bio online. Otis Redding, we had Steve Cropper on the show at one point so far during that gets a smile on your face. What's a memory that sticks out that's cool that folks would get a charge out of?
Well, Steve Cropper, I've done a lot of things with him. For one thing, he produced one of our biggest records, Bump City. He produced You're Still a Young Man and Down to the Nightclub and You Got the Funkifies. We did that in Memphis. And I was actually just there last week. And we played at Graceland.
Nice.
And
wow.
I have great memories of being there. I was telling the guys, when we worked with Steve Cropper in Memphis, we said, we like barbecue because we're from Oakland. They got great barbecue. And we knew Memphis had good barbecue. We said, where can we get some good barbecue? Steve goes, go to the Rib Shack and order steak and biscuits. And we used to go over there. Every time we had a break at dinner, we'd go get steak and biscuits. And we'd go park right by the entryway to Graceland with the notes on the gate,
Right, yeah.
And we'd park right there. This is in 72, so he's in there.
Yeah.
We'd be eating our steak and biscuits and going, wonder what he's doing in there, But Steve Cropper, he produced that record. He also produced We Came to Play. That wasn't as good an experience. I was in bad shape. He was also in bad shape. And then years later, we did a record, Joe Louis Walker, great blues artist.
Oh, yeah, I know him. He's been on.
Steve Cropper produced it.
Yeah, he's a Bay Area
kid. And also,
guy.
I would see Steve all the time in Europe when he was touring with the Blues Brothers, all the time. I mean, we always seemed to play. We did a lot of shows together, and if we weren't doing it together, we were, he's checking out of the hotel, I'm checking in, in Gothenburg, Sweden, and Aarhus, Denmark,
And the other ones, we had Ann and Nancy from Heart on the show, and they're listed in your extensive. Man, who haven't you worked with? What was the Heart gig?
Well, Ann and Nancy, the first thing they called us to do was Tell It Like It Is, their famous Aaron Neville hit.
1980.
And they did it really good, and Greg Adams wrote the horn arrangement, great horn arrangement, really easy. They were very gracious, very nice. And then they called us back. They wanted us to do an up-tempo tune. We did Even It Up.
Oh, wow.
And that was cool. And then they called us probably within 6 months and said, would you do some live gigs with us? And we're like, yeah, sure. And so, we knew Even It Up, and we knew Tell It Like It Is. They wanted to do Chain of Fools by Aretha. We worked up an arrangement. That was cool. And there was I think one other song maybe, and they were paying us a ton of money, and treating us really good, great hotels, top-notch travel. Everything was great, but we're going, we could do a lot more.
You could do the whole show.
We're happy to do more, and they're like, no, that's it. And finally, we kept bothering them. They said, well, maybe you could put a flute on Dog and Butterflies. So Lenny Pickett would go up there and play the flute, and but mostly we just sat around backstage,
Wow.
And but we did open for the Rolling Stones with them. They opened for the Stones in Denver, Colorado.
Oh, wow. So you guys were in Heart doing the Heart gig, opening for the Stones.
Yes. And Keith Richards dug the horns, and he sort of befriended Doc a bit. And then years later, Bill Graham really wanted us to play with the Stones. Bill was, in charge of their tours for several years.
Right.
And he contacted me and sent me out to all these different places where they were. He told me, "You're just going to hang out, and when they see you, and everything, it's going to be their idea to ask you to sit in." They're like, he said, I can't tell them. It's got to be their idea.
Wow.
Like, okay, so I'm at a hotel in LA and a hotel in San Diego, and then they come to San Francisco, and he puts me up at the Fairmont, and I'm there, and they're not saying a word to me, and just hanging out. And finally, they're playing at Candlestick Park, and we go. And they finally, Bill says, "Don't you get it? I want them to play with you. They're a great horn section." And Mick Jagger goes, "Oh, because I remember there was one incident in Denver. He had the idea. There was what they call a hospitality suite at the hotel for the Stones. So you can imagine, $1 million sound system and delicacies and wines, and he tells us, Meet me at the hospitality suite. Mick Jagger's going to be there, and we go, and he's there, and he's listening to Prince. This was when Prince first came out,
right.
And not a lot of people knew about him, but we knew about him because Prince did his first record across the hall from us, and so we knew about him from Sausalito at the record plant. So anyway, we go in. I remember Mick going, "It's Prince. Do you know Prince?" And I was like, "Yeah, I know him." And so because Mick said something to me and I responded and we seemed like we were talking, Bill, in his promoter mind, says, they have their horns down in the van. And he tells the chairman, "Go get the horns."
While Mick is standing right there.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, go get the horn. What are we going to do? We're going to play horns with Mick Jagger standing here? It was a bogo move, And so anyway, I'm like, and then pretty soon Mick just kind of turns around and he does the moonwalk backwards out of the room. And we didn't see him anymore. And Bill comes to me and he goes, I blew it. He goes, "Man, I shouldn't have done that." I go, "What?" And he goes, "That whole thing with the horns," he goes, "He's gone. That's it. It's over." He goes, and that's when he told me, "I'm going to send you to these hotels. You just hang out, But when we got to San Francisco, finally he tells Mick, "Don't you get it? I'm trying to get him to sit in." And Mick goes, "Oh, yeah, great. We'll do it, And so we're supposed to play Satisfaction that day. And we're going to do the Otis Redding horn parts, Da, 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 And Keith Richards wasn't feeling good. He got there late. He walks in, and he sees the horns. He goes, "What's this?" And Mick goes, "Oh, Tower Power horns. They're gonna sit in." He goes, "Not today." And they cancel us, right? And Doc is devastated because we were this close to doing it. So he's devastated. I split. I'm done. I've already hung out at 4 different hotels. I go back. I fall asleep. I'm at my father-in-law's. I fall asleep, and he wakes me up the next day. He says, "Aren't you going to the Coliseum?" And I go, "No." I go, "Yeah, no, Candlestick Park." And I go, "No, I'm done with that." And he goes, "No, I think you should go." So I get a cab and I go. When the cab pulls up, Bill Graham is out there going, "Get in here, get in here. They're rehearsing." And I go into this trailer, and Keith Richards is sitting there, and he goes, "We're doing Satisfaction, the Otis Redding version. Do you know it?" I go, "Yeah, I think so." So, they get out there, they do their set. They have a riser set up for us with 5 microphones, and we're waiting behind this scrim. And then they finish their set, and they come back behind the scrim waiting for the encore. And that's when we're all going to go out and play together. And Keith Richards passes out on our riser. He's on our riser, laying down. And Bill Graham is on top of him, and he's massaging his chest, punching him in the chest, and he's giving him mouth to mouth. And we're like, he's going to die now, really? And then all of a sudden, this guy shows up with this black bag. And he shows up and shoots Keith up with something, man. And Keith Richards jumps in the air and he goes, let's rock.
Oh, you got to be kidding me.
The scrim goes up and the risers pushed out and we're you know, and then we get to the end, to the ride out. You know, when you're doing a ride out and you have horns, and it really gets exciting towards the end of the ride out, the trumpet player takes it up an octave.
Right.
So we had Mick Gillette. He was killer trumpet player, you know. So he goes up an octave. He's going and he's turning red. And because it's so exciting, it sounds so good, Mick Jagger keeps on doing it. So Mick Gillette's about to pass out, but he's making every note, you know. And finally he ends it, and he jumps in the air. He goes, "Tower Power horns!" And you know, we're in the Bay Area, so the place goes crazy, you know. And Bill Graham jumps on my back, and he's got me. And I got my saxophone out. He's got me like this. He's like, "You're the greatest horn section in the world." You know? It was unbelievable. Really something. I'll never forget it.
What a great Bill story. Stone story, Tower of Power story. So many folks. Keith Richards' story, and that really feeds into his whole legacy. Emilio, it's always good when you're on. I was saying earlier, you're just like, you come armed with stories, and obviously you don't disappoint, my brother. I'm giving you a huge high five. I hope you had as much fun this time for your Blue Note appearance on the show as you've had your previous times. I always love seeing you, man.
I'm really looking forward to it. It's nice to do this again with you.
God bless you, and stay safe on the rest of your trip, and we'll see each other soon. Really do appreciate you doing it, bud.
Hey, man. God bless. Bye-bye.
You too. Aloha.